Today's episode is brought to you by our company, NanoChomp Marketing Strategy and Analytics. We help product and marketing teams solve problems and experience growth using data and approachable AI. Visit nanochomp.com to learn more. In this episode of Soundbites, we're talking with Angelo Pixel. Angelo is an innovator and multi-time technology founder that has, among other things, navigated creating and maintaining open source projects, working with governments to deploy ambitious initiatives, and running businesses while living as a digital nomad. He transitioned from startup world to Amazon, but the entrepreneurial itch was too strong and pulled him right back in. He talks us through maintaining the entrepreneurial spirit inside of a large organization and how he got results. Today, Angelo is driving his new startup idea through Antler, a tech accelerator in Brazil. Stay to the end to hear the most unique answer we have ever received for our "What advice would you give yourself at 18 and 25" question. Here's Angelo's story. Hey everyone, thank you for joining this week's episode of Soundbites. Today we've got a really special guest, Angelo Pixel. Angelo's got a background in startups and product management. He's worked on everything from his own businesses to products at leading tech companies such as Amazon. Angelo is currently putting his new idea through its paces as part of a tech accelerator called Antler in Brazil. Angelo, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So, kicking it off, how did you get here? So, what was the path you took? What set you down the path to get into the tech space? And how did you get from there to here?
Wow,
Big
that's
question.
years of story. Okay, so uh, what made me interested in computer science was I loved sci-fi books, and I wanted to build something like innovative, something disruptive, something that would inspire people. So I studied computer science, and while I was doing that, I got an well, actually, I started to organize some events in my home city, Salvador. Currently, I live in São Paulo, Brazil, and one of those events had the attention of the Ministry of Culture of Brazil because I put artists and developers in the same space, so the artists could use open source software to do their performance. And that was in 2003. So
Oh,
the
wow.
tools were like not so polished as
Yeah.
they are today. And that grabbed the attention of the Ministry of Culture. They invited me to be part of the team that developed this nationwide program. And then I moved to work on the another Brazilian digital inclusion program that was the Casa Brasil program that was a little bigger than not bigger but had a different like a more complete approach than the
Mm.
program I was before, and I left to build my own company because uh, during those time in the government and even before, my approach was always like an entrepreneurial approach. I actually last week I was remembered the first time I created something that I can I can define as like my first entrepreneur venture. That was I started a zine, so like a one page fiction zine. uh, at school I was about 16 years old, and I sold that for 5 cents, and it was just the price of the copy. So like
Mhm.
there was no profit on that. But after the second edition, I asked the school to fund the copy. So like
Oh, okay.
the 5 cents became some soft drinks at the end of the week. So I left the government. I started my own company, and I was sure that I started the company to uh, connect with my dreams.
Mhm.
And as I said before, it was to build like sci-fi technology to make people say wow in some like after seeing some stuff. And I started to create these entertainment products for live events, like installations, interactive installations where the people could interact with them. And it was like amazing. I worked. I actually presented my projects in 4 different continents. So I traveled to Asia, Europe, and North America, and other places of South America. But at this point, I realized that I was like my company was doing this kind of project, but also was doing live streaming and software development. And I had a team of 6 people full time and other about 9 contractors. And
Mhm.
I had a house hunter for the office. And I realized that that was not what I wanted in my life at that specific point.
Got it.
So I decided to return the apartment I was renting and become a digital nomad. And that was at the same time I received an invitation to become head of technology and product for an aspiring innovation lab in an NGO. And like that was a great experience because it actually led to creating the idea of an open source hardware and having Google to fund this idea.
Okay.
And well, the following, like I worked with the NGO for about 4 years. The following years, I went back to travel the world to focus on my project, and that was then when I invested in the platform that recognize this image and put augmented reality on top of it. So
Cool.
I create like that was in 2018 was my second try to create Gendic, this augmented reality open source augmented reality platform. But during the time I was on like having this mentoring from Google to develop the previous product. I realized that there was a lot to learn working on a big company.
Mhm.
So like when the pandemic started, I realized that okay, live is working in live events is not a good thing right now. So that's the right timing to join a company and learn. So I joined Stefanini here in Brazil, ITM Stefanini, which is a company in the Stefanini group that focus on industrial maintenance. And then I went to Amazon.
Hmm.
And early this year, I left Amazon, and I'm kind of going back to try to experiment some startup ideas right now.
That's amazing. It's amazing that you were working through open source projects in like 2003, right? And we kind of just whipped right past that, but the you mentioned that the tools that were available, the open source projects that were available in 2003 were not what they are today, not even close. So what you were forced to use were really rudimentary tool sets that real specific group of nerds keeping them together, not what we have today and we love today. And then you went and you took the fusion of art and technology to make some real magic things happen, which is amazing. No, I think that's a real amazing path. And then you get to the point of making new projects and keeping those open source as well. So you have a big commitment to the open source community. What do you think really pushes and drives that for you?
Well, I believe that collective intelligence is the best business model that you can have for a product. So people that are interested in building something with you, they can just join you and help you to build what you're building. And it's important to say that open source is not free to build. You can get grants to build open source product. You can have specific funders. For example, right now, Jandig is funded by AWS. So we don't not
Mhm.
need to pay for servers, which is a big cost for the like it's the main cost that we have right now.
Sure.
So it's and through the years we had some very profitable projects that helped us to move the platform forward and to increase our community of creators.
Got it. I think, yeah, people underestimate, or if they're not developers, they don't really understand truly what that cost of servers are. If you spool up a single EC2 instance, which is basically a computer in the cloud, and not that you don't know that, but for anyone listening, so it's a computer in the cloud, and then you put a database on it, not even a very big database, that's $35 right there if you don't use it, right? $35 a month, even if you don't use it. If people start actually utilizing your resource, it can very quickly become a $30,000 a month adventure.
Mhm.
And those bills keep coming. So you either have to monetize it or get someone to help you make those expenses and pay for those expenses. But we agree with you, like building on the shoulders of giants, standing on someone else's shoulders to build a project bigger is going to be really valuable for one, society in general, but it'll make your project more effective.
Yes.
I'm
Very true.
I'm curious because you've gone a little bit back and forth between like being an entrepreneur, working for the
Mhm.
government, working at these NGOs, working at these large
Mhm.
companies. During the pandemic, when you kind of quit the live event, avenue, and then moved to this large company to learn things, what sort of things did you really learn and take away from from that experience that's helping you with your new ventures?
Well, I can say every day I'm learning something new, but if I would summarize biggest learnings from my last experience, I would say that uh, at Amazon, it was like amazing to see this HUD structure of people, of system being like orchestrated by directors and everything happening uh in like in connection and
Mhm.
like ma- lots of different people, lots of different products in sync working very well. And the way that Amazon's and like big tech deals with authors is amazing. It's I would say that it's very different from the way that I worked before.
Mhm.
So I learned. I would say that there I learned to understand big structures and especially to improve how to deal with outrage. At Stefanini, I would say that like my focus there was product discovery, and for me it was great to learn, like to improve how to speak to customers, how to learn from them, and how this kind of action decrease the risks of building a new product. And I would say that on Infamazonia, what I learned was that, man, I would say that everything is possible. I like when I joined Infamazonia, I didn't thought about like having an like first building an hardware, two having this idea funded by Google, and three traveling the world to present this hardware and actually having this hardware being copied by uh organization in China and sold by this organization. So
That's when you made it.
uh,
When a Chinese company steals your idea and starts reproducing a copy of it, that's when you know you hit success.
uh,
When I was in the
for
automotive
hardware,
world, oh,
no, no, no.
sorry.
And
Go ahead.
when you work with open source, there are two metrics that show you success. The first one, the first metric is how many people are using the tool that you're building. So,
Mhm,
like, how many people are you impacting? And the second metric is how many developers are forking your software and creating
mhm,
other software based on that. But for hardware, it's like way harder because it's not about download for users. It's not about downloading a software.
mhm.
It's about having access to this device. And for developers, it's not just about forking the code. It's about be really interested in one problem that you are solving and realizing that they can solve this problem better and building parts and trying to build what you build and like this kind of thing go wrong many times. You need to iterate many times before the first time it works, and then you became to improve that, and it can take literally months to get the first version of the product working, you know.
Yeah. Hardware projects are so ambitious. I come from an electrical engineering background, and
uh,
your instinct is, oh, I can build something from scratch. But then you look at the cost and then the consequence of making a mistake and then having to turn the wheel again. Where in software, it's like, oh, that didn't work. I can quickly fix it within the next day. I can relaunch something. That's not the case with hardware. So we get to the point when we were in the corporate world, it's like, all right, what exists right now? What can I start with now? We would use like the ESP32 device. We would use Arduino devices. Anything that was a hardware platform that we could start with that could get 80% of what we wanted done. And then we would decide if we were going to develop. But I think that's to your point. People using your product and people then forking your product show you what level of success you had as a creator at that point. That's awesome. That's really, really exciting. And when I was in automotive, when we would do big hardware projects, not electronic projects necessarily, but when somebody would steal your design, when you'd see like an axle or a brake design get stolen and go somewhere else, like, oh, okay, that was good. We did something interesting here. So you don't even get mad almost when somebody steals it. You let the lawyers deal with that. But no, it's very cool, man. So what were the biggest challenges that you faced when you were going from a small business to now being part of a larger organization? Like, what unexpected challenges did you face there?
um well, I would say that for me it was very hard to move from being the sole owner of from having the last word from
Mm,
to being in this structure that you need to convince other people of your ideas, and it's not only one or two, it's not only your manager,
sure,
it's sometimes tens of stakeholders.
right.
And like the base to do that is create a very good communication model to have everyone informed and to like make the goal very clear to everyone, so everyone is discussing the same thing instead of trying to move the product to different goals. Yeah.
I think that's a good one. I think that's something that's underestimated. We've talked about this a lot, that a lot of times when you see somebody who gets promoted, the person who gets promoted is the person who's the better communicator, not even the person with the best skills or the best technologist or the greatest innovator. It's who do we know in the team that can communicate effectively with multiple different stakeholders to move an idea forward. And that's hard. That's a really difficult skill. And they don't teach you that in engineering school. Like, I didn't have anything that learned that. I was like, oh, the best idea wins. It's not the case. It's who can communicate the most effectively will have an idea that can win.
Yeah, for me it was way different from the way I communicated before, because like for clients, I just needed to communicate to one or two people in each client. For the team, it was like easy to create communication tools to having them informed. And for the general public, it's about publishing on social media and doing some talks so you can communicate about the value of what you're building. But like managing stakeholders is completely different. It's constantly having to having this team aligned, while some people is leaving the company, other people is joining the company, other people that already work in the company gets interested in the project or get involved in the project, and you need to onboard this person to know what's already discussed, where like what are our next steps and what's our vision.
Mhm.
So I would say that it takes a lot of energy to do that, and that's why it's important to have very well defined tools and mechanisms to deal with this kind of situation.
Yeah, gosh, I'm trying to think about in my corporate world, like as trying to articulate up to stakeholders, like when they're not in the thick of it, it's so exhausting. And I felt like oftentimes I was sort of presenting the same presentation over and over to explain the value and then re-explain the value and then pray they don't cut my budget. So it is definitely a skill that takes you away from the work. But it is also it's important to learn because it's like if you can't articulate the value to somebody who's new to it, um, then that's a challenge, right? And then maybe you need to have those well defined that value prop and the processes to clearly articulate that. Um, I've been thinking about something that you said that was interesting, sort of through your journey. You said you kind of got rid of your apartment where you are and became a digital nomad and started working on these projects. That's a big life change. Tell us a little bit about that. And just for my own curiosity, what was it like being a digital nomad? Did you go anywhere cool? And how would you describe? And I think you're more planted now. So, what kind of brought you back to a more formal or traditional living arrangement?
Sure. Well, I decided to become a nomad because the structure I had of having this office rented and having about 15 people working with me was, at the time, it was a lot of load to me. And also, as I said, I was working with software development, uh, events streaming, and the part that interested me the most, that was the digital installations and entertainment products. And I realized that I wanted to focus on I created the company to focus on the last part, and I was moving away from my goal.
Mm.
So I decided to shut down those other two parts, and instead of having this full-time structure, just having a project structure. So hire people for specific projects, and having this linear structure which allowed me to travel. And actually it was a like great decision, because I traveled around the world. I uh, literally did one travel around the world. Went to Europe, Asia, North America, and back here.
Wow.
And I spent, I would say, I still had, as I said, I joined this NGO, so I spent about 1 week every month here in São Paulo. and the other time I was or outside Brazil or in the Brazilian Amazon. And actually, there was this time where I left the Brazilian Amazon straight to go to New York. So one day
Oh,
I was with indigenous people in Brazil. 2 days later, I was having a meeting in an office in Manhattan,
oh my
and like
gosh.
it was completely crazy for me because like I kind of live in the middle, but I went to one stream to the other stream. And by the way, it was summer in Brazil and winter in the
Oh
US.
my gosh.
So
It's not exactly warm in New York City in the winter.
yeah. So like the experience was very good to me. To I'm a very organized person, so for me it's easy to create a work schedule.
Hmm.
But after 4 years, and actually I was working on many on-site projects. So for example, I spent a little more than 1 month working in Barcelona in a live interactive performance that was built and presented in this cultural center, Angar. And I actually was living there. They gave me one apartment. Like it's a very big structure, and they have this like structure for live events. They have office for artists, like studios for artists, and they have this little building with 4 apartments for artists in residence there. And like I had lots of experience like this during these 4 years, and what made me come back was actually that traveling takes a lot of time, and to keep the work schedule and like keep keeping being productive, you need to take some of you need to use your leisure time to move. You need to like to pack, to unpack, to go from one place to the other, and it's like moving is a lot of information. Where to go to have lunch, where to buy groceries, meeting different people. So after 4 years, it was like overwhelming for me, and I decided to come back to São Paulo and having an apartment here. And I would say that I'm kind of wanting to go back to be like not a digital nomad, but in between, having a place in a digital nomad in the next few months or years. But I need like to first um prepare the environment to do that. So maybe very soon I'll give you some news about that.
Oh, we'd love to hear that. I think
Mhm.
we can talk all day about my wanderlust.
Mhm.
It's fascinating, but people don't think about the little life things like you mentioned, getting groceries. One of the big challenges you'd face when you're traveling all over the world is how do you get a haircut? It sounds like a silly thing, right? It's a really silly thing to think about, but you're going to be in parts of the world where you don't speak the language of the other people. So how can you effectively pull off some of these everyday tasks that when you're home, you don't have to think twice about? But when you're traveling, you really do, right? It really changes the way you approach things. But I think it's great. You get to see other cultures, you get to see other people, you get to get ideas for how things work and then blend them together. It sounds like through your entire career, you've continually taken different things, put them together to then synthesize a new product, a new idea out of, starting with taking art and tech, throwing them together, and taking the ideas from your digital nomad days to blend them into new concepts, which is pretty fascinating. So right now you've got an idea, a concept you're working on, and you joined an incubator in Brazil called Antler. What is your, so you don't have to tell us about the idea yet, but how have you enjoyed that experience? How has that accelerator been helping you? Tell us about that a little bit.
Nice. I would say that I was I'm very happy with the program because as like Antler is an create this residence program for entrepreneurs. It's 10 weeks, and at the end you have the option to pitch the idea to try to get funding from Antler, and it's very well. As someone that creates and gives workshops, I have this kind of structure that I think that works very well, and they use the same structure. So for me, it was very happy. It was very good to see that they using the same structure,
Mhm.
and uh, the way to work is it begin with lots of theory. So they present lots of theory to have everyone on the same level, and then they start to have to give less theory and start to have some um, like projects where you can
Mhm.
train some specific skills not related to the product that you're building, just projects where they give an assignment to everyone, and like people dividing groups, and it's like in short, it's about the ideal double diamond.
Yeah.
It's the first part and half of the first part, so it ends in the ideation phase. So and you do all that in one day. So you need to interview people, you need to do desk research, and you need to create a pitch in about one day and present on the following day. So it's very good to get practice on this process. And
Sure.
I'm actually on this part of the program, but I know that on the next weeks it will be more about connecting to other people and starting to validate ideas. By the way, I'm in the beginning of the third week, and in the first 2 weeks, they say even to the teams that already come with an idea, you're not going to work on your idea. You're just going to network because you like went to this very thoughtful process of selecting people, and these people here can be your future clients or maybe
Mhm.
even your future partners on the startup you're building, or maybe your next startup. So start by networking. And I think it was great because my approach to the program was, first I want to meet the right people to be partners, and then I'm going to move to design an idea, like to find opportunities and design an idea and validate this idea, etc., with these great people, with these
Yeah.
amazing people. So my approach was in line with their approach. And also, by joining Antler, I'm part of a network of people that in about, like, there are Antler offices in more than 20 countries. So you became part of this international network, which can help you to join other markets or can help you to connect with specific people in other countries where you want to travel to or learn something. So, like so far, I would say that I totally recommend them. Mhm.
As part of that networking process where you were just really getting to know the other people in the accelerator, did that inform or shape your idea at all? Like, did you pick up any um, interesting ideas that are helping shape what you are then going to build?
Well, what I decided to do was like in the process I had one idea, but I'm not investing on this idea too much because, as I say, my first goal is to find the right partners, and
Mhm.
I want to discuss ideas with them. And if
Got
I
it.
invest too much in my idea, one, maybe I just throw all the time that I invested in this research away, or two, I got so connected, like so in love with this idea that limits me from finding the right people to work with.
Mhm. No, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's a good approach. We really love those tech accelerators that have like a startup weekend component in the front. Techstars up here does really fun startup weekends where you show up on a Friday, you do some networking, and then it just, lean startup approach where you're brainstorming to try and see who by the end of the weekend can actually stand up a landing page and get a customer. Like it's a lot of fun. Tons of fun for those kind of events. I wish there were more of them for more people to get involved with. I feel like if that process happened at high schools more frequently, there'd be a lot more people going into STEM, a lot more people going into product management, and a lot more people testing, trying, and not being afraid to start a business because the consequences aren't that high. If it doesn't go well, try something else. Try something else. So, what else has your attention recently? You've got this blending of art, blending of tech. You invested in the open source community and you give back to it. These are really big, important pillars of what you're about. What has your attention right now that you're really looking towards?
Well, I would say that I'm interested in AI. As I said, I'm an sci-fi fan, so I read my first book on AI in 2002, so 20 years ago, and I s- since I became like an employee product manager, I started to stud AI use case on product management and also how to manage AI products. I actually on Stefanini, I managed one AI product, and that was 2 years ago. So it was before the AI boom.
Mm,
And as someone very interested on this, I'm kind of trying to dive deep on that to understand how can I connect AI technologies to solutions in a way that it solve problems like or with more accuracy or in a quicker way.
got it. Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think what you just talked about, solving problems accurately in a quicker way, is really important. And I think what we're seeing now when the mass public hears the word AI, they're thinking of generative AI. But there
Mm,
is a whole
yeah.
nother world associated with it, like with what you would have read 20 years ago, what you've deployed when you had your previous roles, and what you're working on now. No, really fascinating. So I think we got probably maybe one, maybe two more questions to ask, but this is Lauren's favorite question, so I'll let her hit it.
Yeah, so typically we like to ask every guest if you could have dinner with yourself at either 18 years old or 25 years old, what advice would you give them knowing what you know now?
Well, I would like to have the opposite. I would like my 18 years old version to give me advice now because I'm 41 now, and like you start to become afraid to have risks. Like you became more prone to have risks, and like didn't fear anything when I was 18
Mm.
or when I was 20 years old. And I'm kind of realizing that uh, having those fears now are have prevented me in the last months to like jump in what I want to do and just focus on, full time on what I want to do. And actually, as I said, 10 years ago, I took this decision. So I'm kind of would like to receive this advice from my like 20s version or 13th version that would say everything you did went well. Like everything I did went well. It's not like my metrics for like the way I measure success is about learning, and everything I did I learned it a lot, and I
Mm.
had lot of amazing experience, and I met lot of amazing people. So like through this journey I think it's very hard to fail if you're looking for that. If you're looking for the experience, you're not looking for get rich or like
Mhm.
looking for something that you can or cannot achieve in the future.
Hmm.
Just focus on today. I think that's the main, and take those risks. I think that would be the main advice I would like to
I think that's the
give to
best
myself
answer.
now. Like the
Yeah.
past.
I think that's the best answer we've gotten because it's really true. The older you get, the more, you have significant others, kids, pets, your life, it becomes harder, seemingly to take those chances. But to your point, like your metrics for success are like, what have you learned from that experience? And you've learned something with every single failure and success. And so why not take those chances? Because there's really, I think Derek said this earlier in the episode, but it's like really not much that bad can happen to you, right? Like there's really the risk isn't that high, but it does feel weightier the older you get and the more leveraged you are. So it's great advice.
Yeah, that's definitely the most unique answer
Mhm.
we've gotten. And what's interesting is it shows like you're a divergent thinker, right? Which is great. Like divergent
Mhm.
thinkers have great ideas, and we're really really excited. And Angelo, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated hearing your story, hearing what you're working on now, and delivering probably to date the best answer we've gotten for the "What advice would you give?" question. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and have a great day.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Angelo.
much.